everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Sarah and today we are going to talk about road plates in the city. And as you can see, I have two options here. Since my city is pretty new, I decided that I should give the new road plate system that LEGO has come out with for 2021 a try. It is a very interesting looking road and a very different looking road from the old road base plate style. This one is brick built and comes with a lot of different ways to attach and configure the roads. And this one is a simple base plate that is very traditional, and many LEGO city builders have used this one for years. So this new road plate system has sparked a lot of controversy because it also has indicated that the old style is going to be retiring. And this makes a huge difference in a city. These two road systems are very different, both in look and style, as well as height and width. So there are a lot of considerations to keep in mind if you're going to switch to this system, or if you're starting a city from scratch like I am. And I thought the best way to figure this out was to actually grab a couple sets for myself and take a look. So we went ahead and we grabbed two packages of the city road plates, set number 60304, 112 pieces. And of course I have already purchased about 20 packs of this retiring road plate at 60236, which is the straight in the T-junction. I did not purchase 60237, which is the curved road plate. I figured I could get away with the straight in the T-junction for the table layouts that I would like to do in the future. Now keep in mind, inside here are two plates. They're $14.99 each, but you don't necessarily use both plates all the time. That's one thing I found out when I opened up one of these, is that to cover my table with just a straight road, I needed to open up 6 packages to take one plate from each one. So you wouldn't necessarily use the straight and the T-junction in a 1-to-1 ratio on your table unless you maybe have a very big table or very long table. So keep that in mind. When you move over to these road plates, you actually, if you took apart this and swung it around up here, you would actually have 2 road plates in length. Now, of course, you do have these end pieces here that you need to remove that are curved, which are not very useful in all situations because you wouldn't go from a curve to another curve down a straight road. But otherwise, this road plate system right here, this chunk, comes in the box for $19.99 and includes street lights, street lamps that have a neat solar printing glow-in-the-dark look to them, and they actually do glow in the dark. You get some speed limit signs, a crossing sign, there are shrubs and plants. So the box is not just road system, it's also accessories. So whether or not that fits with your city, that's another thing to take in consideration. Next, you'll actually see that the roads are very different in width. So you're going from your 10 by 10 or 32 stud base plate down to more of a 16 stud base plate. And so you're about half the width, which is great if you have a small city, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, some fun ways maybe to use this. But in a traditional city, this might prove to be a problem because where you're losing some of the width is actually in the road, for one. You can see the road that is actually narrower by a couple studs. So that is going to prove to be interesting with some of the vehicles you may already have in your city. I know that the vintage car and the cinema and the diner cars, those all just fit in this section here. And it does not give it much room at all. It has a lot nicer room on this base plate, as well as the street utility vehicles and things like that. That's definitely something to keep in mind when thinking about these new road plate systems. Now you can see the next obvious point here is the lack of sidewalk with the new road plates versus the old road plates. That's a huge deal if you really want to add a lot of detail to your city and plan on putting a lot of minifigs in the streets, maybe adding street vendors and different things like that. So if you can see, what you would do here is tile this out and then have a nice little step down onto the road. So you would just kind of maybe pop off some of these, continue the tile color, and you'd be all set, because both the modulars are built on a base plate similar in height to this. So the sidewalk and the curb make a nice step down to the street. Now, this is the next part that people are having trouble with these new road plate systems. You first actually have to remove these guys here, because they're just not going to work if you try to put them up against a building. But once we do this, we would then need to make sure we have tiles to fill in all of these places, so you will need extra pieces. But if I push this road up against the modulars, let's see, let's move these down a little bit here. Well, it does look pretty good, right? This is not bad. You've got the nice dark bluish gray and the nice dark bluish gray, and everything works well, lines up nice and smooth. But the big kicker is the road is actually higher than the sidewalk. So as you're probably familiar with the roads around your street, that's not necessarily the case in most towns. Most towns, you step down off the curb onto a road. So if you're really going for an authentic city feel, this might be a little tricky for you to want to work around, especially because many of the workarounds include finding different ways to prop up the modulars. And if you have a large city and you have a lot of modulars or other buildings and a lot of streets, you're going to spend a lot of time and money figuring out the best system for raising your modulars. A lot of people have looked into adding base plates underneath, taking the modular off the plate it's on and creating a mill system, which is a modular integrated landscaping system, and that will raise it up. But that is time intensive, labor intensive, and part intensive. You would need to add quite a bit of cost to your city in order to accurately raise it up so that this part here is higher than this part, and you will still have a very shortened sidewalk. Now, of course, you can simply push it up against, and that's fine, and it looks very nice, and from a distance you would never know, and maybe you would never even think that it even matters that the road is higher than the sidewalk. That's really a very personal thing. Again, this is your own city. It's your own minifig city, and the minifigs can do what they want. The builders can do what they want. So if you don't mind, then it is really a nice alternative too. But just remember that you are losing a good chunk of sidewalk here where you might want to put more minifigs. So if you think about it, the cars are going to be driving very close to the buildings, and the figs walking down the buildings or the sidewalks. Now, some people have talked about sliding plates underneath it, because essentially you need one plate thickness to raise them up, the modulars up, to be a curb above the new road plate system. So I actually got a package of these non-Lego plates. You can see they are studded on the bottom so that you can actually build from the top and the bottom, and they are the same height as a regular plate from Lego. And we actually slid one underneath the building here to raise it up. So the Parisian restaurant here does have a plate underneath. You can see it's a different color. I do not love how it just doesn't sit very flush against it. I know base plates that the modular is on do tend to have a tendency to kind of warp and bend as you put the plates on top. And as you go around your city, you'll actually want to attach potentially attach the sidewalks to one another by changing the end pieces so that they line up together. So I might, pop this one off and pop that off, and then come up with a different amount of tiles to connect those. But now that I've got this underneath it, my modular is higher, and if I slide the road over, you'll notice right here where the plates are filled in that you do now step down. And since it's gray, it looks perfectly fine there. You can't see color peeking through. There is a little bit more trouble here when you have this red base plate underneath for the cinema, and I actually switched that, the tan one for the green one for the diner, but you can see pops of color coming through on some of them. So if you are going to prop it up, I would prop it up under with a gray one or one to match as much as possible. Yeah, I would definitely do a gray one, even with the red, because that looks so much better. So there's a very simple solution. A pack of these, so they came in multicolors, so there is a problem there. A pack of these was $24. They were about $2 a piece. And that does raise easily, quickly, without doubt, raises up your modular just enough so that your figs have a curb to step down on. So that would be, besides not doing anything at all, besides just pushing a new road plate up against your modular and calling it a day, this would be the next easiest solution, is putting a 1 plate thickness of plate underneath your existing modular. Now you could also do just a combination of random plates that you have underneath. You may need to tack them down to your table though, so they don't move. This is pretty stable on here. I don't see this moving, and if you have them all connected together, again, there'll be even that much more friction. So that is my quickest way that I've raised up this modular to have that curb feel when you step down. And I kind of like that. I don't see a problem with that at all. I think that once you have the gray plate and the gray plate, you avoid seeing any color. And yeah, actually, I kind of like that. It's definitely not bad. Like, that is a quick fix. That does not require me to pop off any of this and transfer it to a new plate. It just was a couple extra bucks in plate material. But what I don't like is that I still don't have the sidewalk. And if I wanted to use these plates in my city, I would definitely want to have more of a sidewalk, which would mean that I would need to then add more plates to this. And that seems like a very labor-intensive project, when all I need to do is pop down one of these guys, tile it up, and then I have tons of room for extra figs and things to do their things along the street. Now, there is one other issue that I have with using these plates in my street. So even if I've solved the issue of the sidewalk and the curb stepping down onto the road, the other issue becomes, well, besides the fact that I have no sidewalk, the other issue becomes about what the street looks like when there is, I'm going to take this apart. And again, you'll need to make sure you get extra tiles, extra 1x4 dark bluish gray tiles to fill this in. But then what actually happens when you have buildings on, grab the modular like that. We're in the middle of finishing up the bookshop. So I have the first half done, and got this little guy bringing the woman a flower. She's bringing him a flower. What happens when you actually put them together like this? You're going to have a street where one building is facing another. The street becomes incredibly narrow. It becomes filled with shadow, and it is a tight squeeze. It will be very hard to fill it up. And that's the one thing that I don't really love, because it just isn't going to be practical for making a bustling city. You're going to feel very tight and cramped. Again, a lot of your vehicles are going to have trouble fitting. This might be great in a small spot, and I was actually thinking of maybe it might be fun with my winter village where there aren't as many cars involved. Let's see if I put this one in. Let's see, we're going to slide that to the back of the table. I'm going to slide in this, and then there we go. So now there is plenty of space, plenty of sidewalk, plenty of place for people to move around, for cars and whatnot. And I think, honestly, for my situation, the tables that I have, the tables that I know I will have in the future, the space I know I will have in the future, the old road plates make the most sense, both for aesthetics, practicality, my wallet. And even though I do love this brick-built look of these roads, I definitely don't think they are right for this particular style of city. Now, if you have a small space and you don't actually plan on having a city that faces where the buildings face each other, and you are building it on a smaller type of table, like an entertainment center or a console or one of those like sofa tables, where the diameters range more from 15 to 17 inches instead of like the 30 inches, then I think that the road plate system would be really nice. Imagine a full line of modulars here. You know, if you just can do maybe one row of modulars, and then you have this awesome little road system right up against it, even with or without the raised plate underneath, I think this would be an awesome alternative for those people who are maybe building these on bookshelves or entertainment shelves, shelves that are narrower, generally narrower, because you are going to be taking off all of that extra road plate, and it looks much sleeker too. You know, it's much more of a display type feature than having this and then this without another building right here. I think this looks, if you're not planning on putting buildings on the other side, I think that looks really nice, and you can just display some cars that maybe the new vintage car, with the Rolls Royce car that came with the cinema, the pink 50s car that came with the diner. I think that looks incredible. So if you have a smaller city or planning on doing what I'm calling an open face city, where you're just going to look at a straight line of modulars, I think this system really is pretty fun. And I like it for that a lot. And then you may be able to use, depending on how much space you have, you might be able to fill in the other side of your street. And even if you have like a little bit of space left over, you might be able to add a park on this side, or just a little waterway. So I think that if you have a small space, this may open you up to a lot of possibilities like that. But for my area where I've already acquired 12 modulars, I am going to have, we call it now, a closed space city where the buildings are looking at each other rather than us looking at the buildings like this. I think that the wider city will wider street base plates will give us a better look into the city and a better way to decorate the city for different seasons and holidays and things like that. So those are my thoughts on the road plates, but I have one more thing that I want to show you, because as soon as I built this road plate, it made me actually think of the Creator 3-in-1 series buildings. And I have one right here, because these are already built on plates. So it's so different than the modulars that are built on base plates. These are already built on a similar type of plate. So right away here, they match up perfectly, and I feel like they're the right scale for this. So you can line it up there, you can grab one of these plates, you can pop it down here, just like that, and you've attached your building to it. And I think this is super cute. I feel like the scale is very appropriate. I feel like with the narrower road, the shorter building will keep this feeling more open, whereas the taller buildings back here, I feel like really close in on the street and make it a lot darker. So I could totally see a small city made out of these amazing 3-in-1 buildings that I think are super cute. And I totally wish that this toy shop was the same size as those. And I know you can mock them out to make them bigger and all, but just as this is, the Creator 3-in-1 buildings, there are some great options for a smaller city, which is also a lot more budget friendly. You know, this was at $40 when I purchased it, versus, well, now you're looking at retired ones, but, you know, say a $200 modular in this size. So you could make a very fun city with these new plates and the smaller buildings. You're still lacking in sidewalk, but I think the scale looks really nice with these. And then you still can go through and add in all your little accessories that come with it. Oh, you need to plop off these end pieces. I think you're going to end up with a lot more end pieces than you probably want with this set, though. That would be the more road plates you buy and things like that. So you would need to then add in some more. You're probably going to want an extra stash of tiles to go with these road plates if you do switch to them, because you're probably going to be robbing them from other places. But I think this is a really neat look with the Creator 3-in-1 sets too. So yeah, that's it. That is my thought on the new road plates. Will I be going with them in my city? No. I've decided after trying these out and moving things around that to get the detail, the level of detail that I want to achieve in my city, since it will be closed base, the wider base plates are really going to be more suited to the modulars that I have. Like I said, I might try this in the winter village that I have when I bring it out in the fall. I think these might actually create a nice element in that though. So I will be saving these to try with them at that point. But if you do have an open face town, like just a strip of modulars, maybe you have the most current ones that you've built and have them displayed, I think putting one of these sets of roads in front of it is really quite nice, whether you leave them just the way they are on their base plates and don't worry about that little bit of a drop down, or if you grab some cheaper regular plates and pop them underneath the modulars to lift them up a little bit. I think either way works really quite nicely. They're both, well, you can't get any quicker than doing nothing, but the next quickest is to just put just a 1 plate thickness underneath, and that will pop it up just enough to have a curb to step down so it doesn't look the other way around. So yeah, if you are going to use these new road plates, tell me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think of these. Do you have a city? Are you going to use them? Do you have a large city and plan to change them over? Have you gotten them? Tell me, what do you think of these plates? I'd love to know. I think I've made up my mind, but I keep watching different videos that convince me to give it another look. That's why I went out and purchased these 2 sets. But now I feel like with all that I've done, I am going to stick with the regular road base plates. So yeah, if you like this, please give me a like. Feel free to subscribe. We're going to have a lot more content like this coming out in the future. We'll be having another Lego City update soon as I finish the other half of the bookshop. And yeah, that's it for now. Happy building, and we'll see you in the next video.